To Egypt now, where three Al Jazeera English journalists have appeared in court in the capital, Cairo. Mohammed Fahmy, Baha Mohammed and Peter Grester have pleaded not guilty to all charges against them. They've been in prison for 54 days now, accused of aiding and abetting a terrorist organisation. Their next court appearance has been set for the 5th of March. Al Jazeera has expressed disappointment that its staff have not been released. It's calling for a global day of action next Thursday. Well, relatives of those detained were at the trial and they continue to call for their release.
From my point of view, this trial is politicized. My son and his co-workers are good patriots and they work professionally.
Well, he's prepared. He's had to prepare himself mentally for a long haul. Obviously, you know, we're all hopeful that he'll be released very soon. But, you know, he understands that if he gets his hopes up and, you know, has any kind of expectations about today and that they don't go his way, then it's going to be extremely tough for him to get himself out of that hole emotionally. So he's been prepared for today, but he's also prepared for an outcome that perhaps, you know, that we don't want.
Right, we can talk to Joyce Barnathan now, who's the president of the International Centre for Journalists. She joins us live now from Washington, D.C. Thank you for talking to us here at Al Jazeera. So, a very sort of distressing situation for Al Jazeera staff as well as others in Egypt today. What are you making of the situation there?
Well, I agree. It's a very distressing situation for Al Jazeera, and it's all too familiar to our organization because we were one of the 5 NGOs that were targeted by the Egyptian government in late 2012. And our organization is not a political organization. We basically train journalists on how to do their job better, produce reliable news, use the new technologies. And we got slapped with a bogus case, bogus charges. We went through a trial, and I hate to say it, but the political system and the judiciary are on the same page, and I am not very hopeful in the Al Jazeera case if our case is any indication. What do you think could make a difference? If you think that the justice system is in cahoots with the politicians, what can make a difference? Well, I felt that when the NGO case happened, there wasn't enough outrage. You didn't hear enough outrage from the governments. You didn't hear enough outrage from civil society. I mean, people did express and protest a bit, but it's going to take a lot of action. And the fact that there wasn't a huge amount of outrage and there was no teeth involved, that I think the Egyptians thought they can get away with it, and now it's only accelerating. And in your case, it's even worse because your journalists are in jail. All of the people that were indicted were at least allowed to be free while the case was going on. They were put in a cage, and some of the women were in the cage from other NGOs with criminals at the same time, and it's a real travesty. But at least they weren't in jail, and I think by not registering as forcefully as possible that this is absolutely not acceptable, people think it's a perfectly fine way to proceed, and not only Egypt but other governments are following suit. There's been quite a lot of noise being made by people in the trade, by journalists around the world, and civil society has also waded in with its outrage. But what do you make of governments, for instance? What's been coming out of the White House? Do you think that that's sufficient? Because that would surely be listened to in Cairo. Well, I don't think that in our case there was loud enough outrage. And I look at the Australian government and the Canadian government, and they have to step up and speak out and put some teeth in this. Otherwise, it's just going to keep on going. Our case was the canary in the coal mine. This Al Jazeera case is not a surprise to me. I mean, it's incredibly unfortunate, but I don't see them. They're just continuing, if not even doing worse things now. OK, Joyce Barnathan, president of the International Centre for Journalists, thank you very much indeed for joining us live from Washington, D.C.